Wow, and the shock happened. Croatia dumped out Brazil 4-2 on penalties after the game ended 1-1. Guys, this was high drama. All of us were watching that encounter, and it was just dramatic. So it was just crazy.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Rodrigo and Marquinhos, when I saw them coming up, those are the two players of the players who played I expected to miss. Because when I've seen Rodrigo take penalties for Real Madrid, I think I've seen him miss one or two over the course of the season. So I wasn't really impressed with his penalty-taking technique. And he put in an easy place for Livakovic. So that wasn't a surprise. Marquinhos, as a defender, that shooting technique is not always there. I think he did the right thing. He aimed for a corner. He hit it a bit too hard and he hit the post. So those are the players I expected the least of. They didn't deliver, but this is squarely on Citi and Brazil because they had the lead. They were a bit naive in their approach because if you realize with the goals, almost like you are 1-0 up, but somehow you are conceding a counter-attacking situation. There's no reason to be hit on the counter when you are 1-0 up in a knockout game in the second half of extra time. It really doesn't make sense because why would you have so many men forward, So that was very disappointing on Brazil's part. And all credit to Croatia because they keep coming back, they keep pushing, they never give up, and they keep getting their rewards. So congratulations to them, and very disappointing for Brazil because there was no reason to throw away that lead because Neymar scored a great goal. They had the lead. Everything was in their favor, and they kind of threw it away.
Daniel, Suso highlighted the fact that, yes, Brazil gave... But what could have possibly led Brazil into that situation where they were caught with a counter-attack, 1-0 up, 3 minutes to go in extra time?
That's what I can't explain because after their goal, they started taking the ball to the corners when they had possession. So I don't know why in that particular sequence they all decided to push up in search of another goal. I honestly can't explain it. But these are some of the things that happen in football, and then we are supposed to make sense out of it. But frankly speaking, Brazil didn't deserve to lose this game. They didn't deserve to. It was... I would credit Croatia if they had been able to limit the chances Brazil created. They were not able to do that. It was the goalkeeper who made save after save after save after save. But Brazil,
the match,
it's a problem.
Had a bad game.
Look, Brazil breached the defense time and time and time again. It was Livakovic over and over again, and it just wasn't happening for them until Neymar scored that goal. Frankly speaking, I don't think the game should have even gone to extra time. Brazil should have won it in 90 minutes. But that being said, they went to extra time. They showed resolve, mental toughness, got that goal. But it was how they managed those situations. And funny enough, it's that one moment of naivety which came back to haunt them. Because, trust me, Croatia didn't have any opportunity to score. They were not going to be able to breach the Brazilian defense had they been sitting back. Brazil had the technical players with the quality to keep the ball, go into the corners, hold it up, dribble. Anthony was doing that brilliantly, go into the corner, attempting tricks, drawing fouls, allowing the time to go. But I don't know why in that particular instance, they all decided to push. And it was the positioning of their defensive players. The fact that Casemiro, Fred also pushed with the attackers. That shouldn't happen. If Neymar and Pedro
Fred
losing the ball in an offensive situation, Fred came on for was a Paqueta.
Yeah.
If fine, you can say Fred was allowed to move, but Casemiro shouldn't be following through with that attack. If Anthony and Neymar and Pedro and Fred are pushing forward, that's fine. You leave the defensive line to do their job. Let the four defenders be there. Let Casemiro, the one supposed to be protecting, be there just in case of a quick transition. But he also pushed. And once the Croats got the ball, it was all down to Perisic. And look, he has the vision, he has the technique to pick out the pass. And the painful thing also is the deflection is what took it away from Alisson because it wasn't a good shot. It looked like Alisson had it under control until he hit and sort of made an extra bend around him. But yeah, when it came down to the penalties, again, the decision making. We saw what Argentina did. And that's what I subscribe to. You let your best takers take the first three. Because, as we said during the Japan, the round of 16, we spoke about, it can be done by the fourth. It's not, most of the time, it doesn't go to the fifth. And I think this thing has happened to Neymar before, where he's not had an opportunity to hit a fifth kick. So for me, he not being one of the first three And Susu spoke about even the penalties that Rodrigo has scored at Real Madrid. They snuck in under the keeper's armpits. The keeper touches it, he almost goes in. He's not been too convincing from the spot. And for me to put that responsibility on him to take the first kick, a young player like that, it's just a bit too much. Yes, had he scored, we would have said good job. But that's why he didn't score. I think Neymar should have taken the first kick. Give yourself the best advantage. Because you saw what? It was Modric who took the first kick for Croatia. Messi took the first kick for Argentina. You put your best foot forward. And that is what the data gives you. The data gives you the opportunity to rejig your penalty shootout plan and make sure that you put your best foot forward to win. But Brazil didn't do that. But look, on a grand scale of things, I think it would be very unfair to say the Croats deserved to. They didn't. They were lucky. But sometimes in competition, you also need luck, and that's what they are.
Great. Let's have a look at the data. The data from the encounter. That's how it played out.
One shot on target.
They had one shot
Even from Brazil. That should tell you what Livakovic was doing. 10 saves. That's monstrous.
That's crazy.
The guy was a literal wall in the goal. Everything else, the only goal they scored is because they rounded him, so he wasn't in the pool, basically. Monstrous.
Wow. So that's really what the game looked like there. Let's have a look at the extra time data. The data from extra time. And let's see what that one provides as we move on. Okay? So it looks like that's what we have here.
Look at the XG, just exactly what I was saying.
2.6, I think it is.
And you see,
Brazil had underperformed their XG the whole tournament, and he came back to bite them.
But see, for me, there's a difference. In this, it wasn't bad finishing. Because the angles at which the shots were taken were very good shots for me. It was just exceptional goalkeeping. The near post one, I've forgotten who it is, where Livakovic used his legs to save. Any other goalkeeper, that shot is beating him. Neymar, when he tried to squeeze the ball in between his legs, he saw the space. If you watch the replay, he saw the space right between the goalkeeper's legs. He hit it. And somehow, Livakovic is able to close his legs just before the ball comes. There were so many very good saves. And yeah, that's why he's a goalkeeper. But if your keeper is exposed to that many shots and makes these many saves, it's not a masterclass performance from your team. Okay. It's a super performance from a goalkeeper, which has helped his team. And he went on to save a couple in the penalty shootout. And for me, Croatia were lucky. But as I said, sometimes you need luck in these competitions, and they had it. Brazil just didn't have it.
Okay, let's have a look at the patterns, the goal patterns from that encounter. There you have it. So maybe you can run us through.
It just shows the Croatians didn't create much.
I mean you can go to the screen if you want to highlight.
No, I think I'll take it from here. I'm too disappointed. If I stand, my knees, my back, I might drop to my knees in pain. But it just goes to show, if you see the verticality of the graph for Croatia, there's no big jumps. There's no moments that are like, yeah, this is a very good chance for Croatia. And the goal itself, like Daniel pointed out, is a deflection. It's not even a good chance because there's players in front of the keeper and that kind of stuff. But they got their luck. And that was their only shot on target. I think that's the most painful part of the whole game from a Brazil perspective, that you basically limit them to creating no chances the whole game. They don't test Alisson the whole game. And then one time they get a chance to test him, it takes a wicked deflection and flies past him. So it's just a very difficult one for Brazil to stomach. They'll be brutally disappointed, I can't understand, because any other day, it's one of those games that if you simulate a game like this with this same kind of shots and data points, Brazil win this 95% of the time. That's how well they played relatively to Croatia. So very disappointing. But as my issue is that the goal is on them. They have to take responsibility for that, because there was no reason, again, like you said, for Casemiro and everybody to push that far forward. In the second half of extra time, where game you are leading, where Croatia have offered nothing. So they have to take responsibility. They are disappointed. I'm disappointed, but it happens in football, and that's just how it is. It
does happen sometimes. What about the Brazil-Croatia? Let's see the momentum, if you can get that. So again, we see the ebb and flow of the game, and we see. So for somebody who's reading this, what exactly does this tell us?
So the purple or blue, and I know my colors are not that good. The purple or blue is the Brazil, and the red is Croatia. So you can see in the first half, Croatia had a few moments, but the second half was all Brazil. And the first half of extra time was mostly Brazil as well. Brazil get their goal. You expect them to sit back, but it's like And that's what they did per the attacking momentum. But that was the only time that Croatia kind of took the game by the scruff of the neck and really pushed forward consistently. That's probably the only 15-minute spell they had in the whole game where you could say they were the better team and they got their goal. So it was just one of those. Because if you see the spells they have throughout the game, very short 3-minute spells where they dominated. But when it comes to Brazil, there's these longer spells where it's all Brazil, all the attacking threats. So it just shows how well Brazil managed the game until that point.
I see. So for our viewers, if you like to explain the top part, the pinkish reddish part, that's the part for the Croats, and the other part is for the Brazilians. So you can tell really how Brazil or how much Brazil dominated. If you have a look at the screen behind us, you can tell that Brazil did have their moments. They got the goal, and that was a very big moment there. But Croatia found their great moments, or one of the best moments they had, and boom, they found that equalizer. Okay, let's have a look at Brazil's attacking third. And what exactly they did there. So we see, we are looking at the percentage of total attacking touches that occur within each third, and we notice really, almost very balanced. The Brazilians were attacking from all fronts, from the left, from the middle, from the right. So it looks like the attacks were coordinated. Unlike some teams that will have a very lopsided attack, Brazil had weapons on every side of the attacking bit, but it still wasn't enough to kill off the Croats.
I also have one criticism of Citi. I didn't like his changes. I did not like them at all. There was no imagination to the changes. It was almost like if he's taking off a player, he's bringing almost the same player off the bench.
I see.
And if you want to change a game, you should be doing something different. Maybe if you are thinking that we're not scoring, you take off Vinicius and you bring on Pedro. And you have Pedro and Richarlison maybe up front together and move Neymar to the left. Something. I'm not saying that was the best change, but you have to have some kind of creativity for me with your changes.
I agree with the changes because if you look at the scope of the game, the problem wasn't Brazil wasn't playing well, they were not creating. The problem was the lack of finishing. So maybe let's maintain the system, but if it's a different player, maybe he able to find the composure and put it in the back of the net. If they were struggling to break the Croats down and he went for like changes, I think that is where I would sort of side with you as to why he didn't change the system. But the system was working. And even the switch of Richarlison and Pedro, that brought a sort of a different dynamic because now Pedro is
a bit more physical.
Yes, and he gave them more of like a route one. But they didn't really use him that much because he had got the goal. Now they started hitting the ball. He tried to hold it up a bit. That's what I'm saying. After Brazil scored the goal, they were doing the right things. Hit it up to Pedro. He hold it up a bit. Anthony takes the ball. He goes to the corner. Neymar joins Anthony on that side. They are trying to play the ball. I don't know why that one instance where from which the Croats goal came, they decided to actually go direct and look for a goal. That's where the problem was. And you are punished. At this level, you are punished for every single mistake. But if you also juxtapose it on the Croats, it's unfortunate that their goalkeeper didn't allow them to be punished long before extra time. But yes, he's a goalkeeper. He has his job, and he did it and brilliantly.
Okay, all right. Let's have a look at Croatia and what they offered in terms of their attacking third as compared to the Brazilians. And yes, there you have it. Very interesting. If you look at their numbers, you could tell that they were more prone to.
It makes sense because they are right back. I can't remember his name, but he plays for Celtic, I believe. Juranovic.
Yes.
He was up and down. Like he was putting in a shift. It was an incredible first half from him. I was very surprised by his energy and he was the only Croatian player who seemed a bit threatening.
Vinicius didn't have anything on his side and eventually got taken off. Vinicius had a very bad year because for somebody to be pushing he still managed to hold you back defensively.
He also had a very good chance, if you remember, and he played it straight at the keeper. I don't know if you remember. He probably had their best chance for me, and he didn't take it. So just a disappointing game for him.
So you can tell that through the middle, the Croats didn't have anything at all. 12.7% of the attacks through the middle.
You see, that's because I saw some commentary after the game where Modric was being. I don't like that thing. It's like when an underdog wins, you look for the star player, you attribute the game. No. Modric was completely dominated by Casemiro. They couldn't have a grip of the game. And in the first 20 minutes, that's when the Croats tried to hold the ball. I think they were very good. But when Brazil settled into the game, the Croats couldn't stop the incessant attacks. And that's where you need somebody like Modric to be able to hold that play, take the steam out in the game, dictate the tempo. He wasn't able to do that. Casemiro, Paqueta completely dominated. Kovacic struggled, Modric struggled, but they won. So because they won, Modric is
outcome bias.
The outcome bias. Okay, let's quickly have a look at the passing of the two sides. First, the Brazilians, their passing networks and how they were moving the ball around. And we'll have a look at what the Croats also did. Okay, so there you have...
and that's how you can tell Vinicius really struggled. Because look at his touches. The fainter he is, the less touches. Look at, he wasn't really involved at all.
Look at Rafinha. Rafinha has had such a disappointing tournament.
He has.
Such a disappointing.
He has.
I feel in the last 2 games when Anthony came on, it's the directness that Anthony has. What's his name? Rafinha tends to dwell with it, but I think he fancies those 1-2 opportunities. He wants to play off somebody. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, he has the skill to take on the opposition. Yeah. I don't know why he doesn't do that. Anthony was always willing to run at, and he caused a lot of problems for Croatia when he came.
I would think that from what I've seen from Rafinha from his time at Leeds, he's just as capable, if not more capable than Anthony.
That was the point I was about to make.
I don't know why. He's been, honestly, I think it's a Barcelona effect. Because since he's gone there, he's killed that side of his game. He always wants to cut in, play a 1-2, this attacking midfielder move. That's not the Rafinha we know. And he's been very disappointing this competition.
All right, Rafinha not getting the best of reviews. Let's have a look at the Croat passing network. Let's look at how they look like in terms of their passing. There you see a lot of Brozovic, Kovacic, Juranovic we mentioned. Luka Modric in the mix as well.
And look at how close Juranovic is to Paslic, who was the winger in front of him. They are almost in the same line for their average touch position. So that just shows you how much he was going for it.
Okay, and then you have Perisic there as well. So you look at the passing networks and the attacking patterns and the percentages we saw earlier start to make sense to you. So this was how the Croats were attacking averagely. This was where people were receiving the passes, or this is how they were playing against Brazil when they played in the quarter final. Now let's have a look at Luka Modric's pass work, or the amount of passes he put together on the day. There you can see a slight concentration towards his right. A slight concentration towards his right. There, he was passing all over the place, but you find a lot more density on that right-hand side. 105 successful passes, 11 unsuccessful passes, and 116 passes in all with 91% accuracy. So, well, yeah, I mean, Modric was moving the ball a lot, but it was down the right. So I think it kind of feeds.
I would say he didn't create one. Look at his passes that ended inside the box. 2. Just 2. And that's also just 3 attempts. So he was getting the ball, he was helping them retain and stuff. But in terms of making a difference in the final third, we didn't really see that much from him.
Okay. Then let's see where the Croats took their shots, their shot locations from that game involving Brazil and Croatia. There you have it. They took 9 shots, most of them off target, most of them not doing anything, except for that red spot, the goal that leveled things deep in extra time. So sometimes as you go along, you will find that one thing, that one shot that makes a difference. And even this one, we have to add that they took a bit of a deflection. That's how come they had that impact. So nobody knows what would have happened if the shot didn't touch anybody. Maybe Alisson would have had it there. Rafinha, the guys mentioned Rafinha, and he also didn't impress. Let's have a look at where he took his shots from. There you have it. Not a shot on target. They had a few shots in the penalty area. 5 shots, I believe, in the penalty area.
The whole World Cup.
The whole World Cup. So you can tell that he didn't really impact the play. He had 5 shots in the entire competition. 5 shots in the box, 3 outside. None resulted in a goal on a 1.2 XG. So that's the lowdown from Rafinha. Clearly disappointing outcome. Daniel, you've mentioned that. So it looks like whoever takes over next will maybe look at Rafinha and wonder if he has a lot to give this Brazilian setup. All right, let's see Richarlison. Let's see Richarlison's passes and what he was doing. This was against Croatia. This wasn't his best game either. He didn't have a lot of the ball. Strikers may not need a lot of the ball, but you can tell that, had how many? 3 touches in the box.
3 passes completed.
3 passes completed. it turns out.
He was a bit isolated, I guess, because the way the Croatians managed the space was very difficult for him to get that freedom. But even then, he was creating chance. I believe his passes led to about 2 or 3 shots for his teammates. So he was decisive when he did get the ball, but he did struggle a bit to kind of get into the game. So that was disappointing from him. But I would say he tried. He did the best given the circumstances.
Look, I think it's almost similar to like the Haaland situation. Yes, he didn't have a lot of touches in the game, but he was impactful in terms of when he touched the ball, he made sense in an attacking aspect of the game. And look, he created a couple of decent opportunities. The percentage may not look impressive, but again, for me, passing percentage doesn't really mean much to me.
Okay.
When it comes to the player profile and the position also. If you are like a centre back and you give a 90, that you are supposed to do that. You are not supposed to be, because half of, in fact, 90% of your passes are sideways. And in fact, if they are even forward, they are very close, simple passes, and 10 5-yard passes. But if you are a forward, in that zone, in that final third, there's a lot of pressure, constant pressure. There are always defenders around you. So they are high-risk passes. I don't think they go for very simple. And as Suso has said, you look at 3 of those passes he made, created opportunities for his teammates. I think Neymar played a 1-2 off him, the one when he tried to sneak the ball in between Livakovic's legs. And that would have been a brilliant assist. And that is the quality that he brings. But unfortunately, again, because the result doesn't go their way, it means nothing in the end. But look, he was good. He had a very good World Cup. I think he had a good game. They just needed a different dynamic at the point because of how they were struggling to put the ball in the back of the net. Maybe they thought that Pedro would bring something different. And it hurts because, frankly speaking, when you look at this Brazilian performance from a data point of view, they were not supposed to go out. As I said, the Croats were, from a game plan point of view, they were lucky because I don't think anybody fashions out a game plan for
your keeper has to do it.
You do it and try and limit the chances that the opposition are creating. But if you are not able to do so, and your keeper makes a lot of big saves during one match, then you know that he's the one who has literally single-handedly taken them through.
And a game we'll go to later, the Portugal-Morocco game. Yeah. How many big saves did Bono have to make, for example?
Okay.
He didn't have to make that many big saves because the game plan was to stop the chances in the first place. So that just shows that, look, it's one of those things. It happens. And that's the beauty of football. If we all knew on paper who was going to win, it wouldn't be interesting.
I guess.
We have to take the good and the bad and the unexpected.
The sweet, bitter, and unexpected.